Greetings everybody! Online community, why does it form? This video question being talked about in this academic video. In it, it'll be going over academic positions, some case studies I went over, as well as some other observations. Enjoy the next 10 minutes. Greetings everybody! In this video, we'll be addressing the question of people connect through social connections and communities through social media. The subject of this will be about the Chinese app Xiaohongshu. The case study of Xiaohongshu is simply due to the fact that it's a very interesting case of a transnational community development, where different people from various Western countries ended up moving towards the Chinese app itself. And that had its own consequences. Justifications! Very simple, really. It's just because I was there around the time it was happening. While I did not partake in any of it, I at least observed it passively. That means I at least know the general trend of what was going on at the time. I can't give you all the answers here, but it can act as a lead to your own research on the topic itself. I deeply encourage everybody watching to further their own research on the matter after this, if you are interested. That is because a lot of the subject matter about this is genuinely a lot more complicated and deeper than anything presented in this video itself. And with that, I'll move on to the next section. This short, I think, is a perfect lead into this, and I will just quickly show this, and then it will lead to a good understanding of what caused it.
The TikTok ban stands. What? Unless you separate from Chinese ownership, it'll be banned on January 19th. Remind us why. The US government has the authority to ban TikTok based on the national security risk that you could be pressured by the Chinese government to expose Americans' data or influence what they see on the app. And we said this ban is free speech infringement. Right, but we rule this as an act to protect national security.
So, what then caused the whole affair? It is therefore a simple matter of US Congress deciding to effectively choose to want to try and curtail China. China basically acted like China. US basically pressured, then forced take ownership, take over, and that's what happened. TikTok is back. It changed. They hated it. End of story. Now, on to Xiaohongshu, because that's where a lot of stuff can be explained more. Let's begin with this memes. Meme 1, cat pictures. Very obvious. Cat tags, or pet tags in general, show a pet. Meme 2, shiny spy. It sounds weird at first, but it's really not that weird. It's more of like a buddy system, where you connect with it. There was no Western alternative as it's called Chinese spy, because it was called meeting your Chinese spy, aka connecting with someone who's Chinese, yada yada yada. Then we have this. It's less of a meme but more of a chart where it's talking about service differences. Next we have this meme about the situation at the time of the TikTok potential ban, which ended up not going ahead. Again, and then here's a final one for the comical Chinese spy. Content on the feeds. This is where it gets interesting. The first one is just an interesting example of what I saw. First slide. Interesting case of what I saw. Second, this is where it shows the actual diversity of content by the next 3 things. As you can see by here with the affordances, right? Of course, usernames are blurred, and children are blurred in this for obvious reasons. So that's that. This is where a lot of the stuff leading to this can be really interesting, because if you actually are politically aware, this gets really quite interesting with some of the context. Here is an example of some cute little rabbits in a pop culture context, which has a banger song, which I will show you a 3-second clip from. The context matters actually a lot more than people think it does. that is because a lot of the dynamics surrounding Xiaohongshu is kind of like that, where it's a cultural bubble, where it's seen as an information cocoon, in that it's very biased and closed off. I will go more to the academic side to this after I showcase the next 3 things which is unique trends noticed there. So that academic part of this video will be fulfilled in that sense. Let's begin with China maxing, which is one of the things that translated from TikTok and is cited by academics in more of a nuanced way. As you can see here, chopsticks. But again, if you have eaten chopsticks your whole life, eating with chopsticks your whole life, that's nothing special. But this is where I think some of these other ones are a bit weird of examples. For context, these are people who are just probably trend jumpers, and this is something which you encounter on all social media. Next, we have English rooms or English chats. These are very, very numerous in terms of Xiaohongshu. This is something which formed out of the cultural thing of trying to learn stuff. Because stuff like Hello Talk already exists where you can do this, but its use is actually very inconvenient in the grand scheme of things. The rise of English rooms, which is Chinese people, often women, talking English. This one's the most bizarre thing, and this is one thing to highlight the dark side of social media in this context. This whole trend then of being like, am I cute or handsome, developed, which actually caused a lot of negativity. And that itself is what is the issue here, because then these sort of spurred alongside the trying to find Chinese girlfriends or husbands. Now, let's move on to the academics and conclusion. I hope you've been enjoying the video. There is 8 academics involved with this general discourse. The first is Yuzhe He, who has the conversation that you need to talk about who the key members are that causes the influence to grow. La Rose R. et al. Adds on that cultural factors is impactful on the matter, as you can see via the segment on screen. Pan Zi et al. Also adds on that another factor that matters is community migration, which did happen as showcased in the lesbian community. Linking it more to Xiaohongshu, Zhao Wei 2025 highlights how the actual other side of this is a political dimension, which will be expanded on by other sources. Dong X highlights a good point in this, is that the nature of Xiaohongshu has its own unique trends, which also is very different from TikTok, which made some people stay, and that is what I did observe. Harper T observes, therefore, that it is not guaranteed that what happened will be a permanent thing. A lot of the trends you saw were very temporary, with a lot of them now being null and void. So, therefore, it is a good thing to question if Xiaohongshu's effects is longer lasting or not. And that is ultimately something which is only tested by time itself. Therefore, it is interesting to say, because here, why a journalist comments on this factor being shown, highlighted on screen, which is a changing of sentiment. Ovečková raises skepticism about some of the things, especially the China maxing trends, which is shared often in the app itself by users who call some of those people fake. So, to conclude this academic video, what can we conclude about Xiaohongshu, about how it's formed community? What we can conclude is one thing, and that is it correctly responded to the circumstances at the time by having an open embracing policy at the time itself, which led to more user loyalty that came in and remained. What that led to is a factor of a new base of non-Chinese users who are consistently loyal to the platform enough to the extent that they can create an ecosystem of cross-national effects. The algorithm, therefore, is only really the sticking point to this, because the barriers that exist don't really exist because of the people themselves, but rather because of the barriers imposed by the system itself, by its censorship behind the scenes. So, its actual design, it both facilitates and punishes community, because it's very much a sense of community only if you are of a certain type. And that is very much the case, especially when it's ripe with gender wars and other things. So its affordability as a platform is a mostly positive thing, and one of China's best cross-cultural things put out there because of its accessibility to multiple people of multiple positions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I implore you to learn more about this if any part is interested you. And of course, if it doesn't, just take what you learned and take it on board. And I hope you learned something interesting, taking in the thoughts on the both academics as well as the research into the actual use of the app itself. Enjoy your day, people.